The Los Angeles Lakers stay undefeated in Cup play. A slow start for the Jazz dooms them, but a rally late shows lots of hope. We'll talk about it next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone with you here on POSTCAST after the Utah Jazz fall by just 6 tonight by the final score of 124-118. Lakers jumped to a 15-point lead in the first half, took control of the game. I'm not sure the Jazz may have had a 2-0 lead early, but that was about it. So it was another night where the Jazz got hit early, fell behind, trailed by as many as 25, so never really a threat to win this game at all. But they do close the game with the effort, staying in it, which I think is a step. They've obviously got to find a way to do it in a manner that's not always the last thing they do. But maybe the most important thing tonight, Ron, to me, is Keonte George. A first half that was less than desirable. He goes 0-4 in the first half tonight. And you coming off being benched, you in the second half of the night before, you really wondered where he's going to be. At times, his body language in his career has not been super, and he came out and probably played the best 5-minute stretch of basketball I've ever seen him play. He had about 5 straight fabulous plays and really did a nice job. I'm pleased to see that Keonte was able to bounce back.
I'm so pleased for him. He definitely needed a game like this. And David, he shot the basketball very, very well. Now, if that's the what he needs in order to make himself play well, then I'm happy for him. But, boy, he just got to get off to a good start in that first half, the first quarter, just be more engaged in the game. Nothing's better in this league than having confidence to play this game.
Jazz offensively had really turned a corner in the previous 7 games. They came in, their offense was much better. It was the 7th or 8th best offense in the NBA in that stretch. And then tonight their offense just got crushed. I mean, if you look at it quarter by quarter, their offensive rating at the end of the first quarter was an 87. Their offensive rating at the end at halftime was an 89. What happened to the offense tonight in the first half of this game when it was really, frankly, decided?
Well, Jazz 38% again in that first quarter. I mean, that's something that cannot continue to happen because they dig a hole, and they're just. This is not one of those teams where they can consistently dig themselves out and win a basketball game. They might be able to dig it out and be competitive, which is good, because it does show a sign of not giving up and wanting to to play hard in order to make something happen. But they got to do better in that first quarter.
Yeah, no, they got blasted down 34-22. They actually, what's interesting about them is they really, and I think this is a little bit of, I've heard some of the coaching staff kind of feel this way about the team right now, that like our transition gets better and our half court falls apart. Our half court gets better and our transition falls apart. And it's a little bit of that because I think, I really would say this. I would give great credit to the Jazz tonight for their defense in the first half of this game. The Lakers' offensive rating was a 116, which is right kind of on their season average, while the Jazz offense was an 89. Like, it's really, really, really hard to be a good defensive team when your offense is struggling. And then they allow 40 points in the third quarter when their offense suddenly picked up.
If you talk to a coach and you ask them about this game in particular, I mean, where are they going to point first? Execution, we're not doing this, not doing that, and we're turning the ball over. Turnovers are killing this very young basketball team. And if they're getting off to a good start in the first quarter, they give it up because of turnovers. And a lot of those turnovers are unforced, bad pass, lackadaisical passes, that type of thing that end up giving 20 points off of 16 turnovers here tonight.
By the way, I just would share, if you look at first quarter numbers, which why would any of you ever do that? So we do it. Everyone likes to talk about the NBA, the game's decided in the final 5 minutes. I actually think the game's decided in like the first 5 minutes.
I totally agree with you. And
if you look at the teams that are the best teams in the NBA, they're really, really good first quarter teams. Now, interesting, the Lakers have not been. The Lakers are 21st in the league in first quarters this year. So this was an unusual thing for them, maybe an area of focus, frankly, after their night the other night against New Orleans, where they played an undermanned New Orleans team and they fell way behind. They came out really firing. tonight, outscoring the Jazz 34-22. Then the second quarter was close, and then the third quarter they outscored them 40-31. Jazz flurried, won the fourth quarter pretty dominantly, 43-27, as they cut into that point differential. Dalton Knecht was the story of the night for the Lakers. He had 37 points tonight. He can really shoot it. He honestly reminds me a little bit of Kyle Korver. Like, that's everyone wants the next Kyle Korver. He might be the one. He's 6'6", 6'7". And that's the thing on Korver, that he was that he's so big. He can really shoot it. He shot it well at Tennessee. He's a little bigger and stronger than Kyle. In some ways, at 6'6", 215, he is 23 years old, so he comes in as a veteran, and he looks like he is a perfect fit.
Comes in as a veteran at 23.
Well, it's a lot different than the 19-year-olds.
I know exactly what you're saying. It just seems strange to hear something like that, because when I played, everybody came in at 22 and 23 years old, because you spent 4 years in college. Now these young guys are coming in at 18, 19 years old and with little experience, and by 20, they're solid NBA players. So it's kind of strange. But, this kid can shoot the basketball, and he's on a team that fits him perfectly. LeBron James does not mind passing the basketball. The only thing that I if I had to question this team, is they score in the paint, but they don't have size. They have Anthony Davis, and then you look at that starting lineup. 6'7", 6. LeBron 6'9", but he doesn't play around the paint or anything. But they execute very, very well. How many layups did they get because of good execution? And so they ended up scoring 66 points in the paint tonight. Jazz had them 52, which is not bad, but 66 points in the paint is something that Jazz was very concerned about before the ball game.
Well, that's where you open the broadcast. They average 53 points in the paint. And they got 66, so that is definitely more than they usually do. I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation, and I don't know the answer. Tonight, it gets better by the end. Jazz shot distribution is out of whack. Lauri Markkanen ends up with 16 tonight. Jordan takes 15. John Collins takes 14. Keonte takes 13. Collins takes 12. That's probably closer to.
Yes.
Lauri needs to take more than the 11.8 shots he's been taking. The Jazz practice today felt like they were trying to get there. The problem is that Lauri needs assists. Like, Lauri cannot create his own shot. So it's an interesting question of, like, it's easy for us to sit here and say Lauri needs more shots, Lauri needs more shots. But the thing we talked about with Lauri is there's only been 4 players in the history of the NBA who've ever scored over 20 points a game and had 80% of their field goals assisted, and they're Klay Thompson, Kristaps Porzingis, Lauri Markkanen, and old Karl Malone. You can't just say, Lauri, go take a shot unless he's able to get open. And if teams are going to zero in on him, I don't know the answer to this problem.
I don't know the answer either.
Okay.
I was looking for something there as far as, the Jazz offense. And they have certain plays that they run for Lauri. How can Lauri help himself? And I think that's probably the answer, or something that we probably need to focus in on, is how can he help himself in that first quarter in order to get himself going and getting up more shots.
He was gone from 4.6. He's gone from 6 points first quarter to 4.6, 7 a few years ago. So that has slowed down. Third quarters as well. They've also changed his. I keep meaning to check. I don't remember him playing 3 stints like he did a year ago. All right, I do want to comment because the chat room is on this. So 2 things about Dalton Knecht at 23 years old as a rookie. The analytical
17th pick in the draft.
17th pick of the draft. The analytical belief about older players is that they don't have development left. So what you see out of Dalton Knecht right now would generally be the belief is what you're going to get. The other thing about older players when they come into the draft is to look back at how they did at 19 and 20 against fellow 19 and 20-year-olds. The where you make mistakes is the Wesley Johnsons, the Epe Udos, who thrive at 22 and 23 against 18 and 19-year-olds and then you draft them off that and then they don't succeed. Dalton Knecht was even more unusual because he had a COVID year. So he went to junior college, then he went to Northern Colorado, then he COVID yeared to get an extra year at Tennessee. I was questioning the COVID year seniors because they were 23 playing 18 and 19-year-old players. we'll see. There's about 4 of them. Baylor Shireman's not playing at all. Dalton Knecht is. But the analytical feeling on older players is that they are who they are now. Not that they'll never play, but that they are who they are now, that they've gone through the development, and that you should look back and see how they did it at a younger age. What's unique about Dalton Knecht is that younger age was against junior college players, so you couldn't really look at it. His next stop was Northern Colorado, which wasn't really much of a spot. The only time you had any reference point for him in playing marquee basketball was at Tennessee, but he was 23. So I did not suspect Dalton Knecht would be able to do what he's doing right now. This is a perfect team for him, and he is rising to the occasion. And as Tim Lacombe, I thought, pointed out well on the pregame show, getting passed to by LeBron James and Anthony Davis is actually, on one level, easy because you're open. On the other level, it's not easy because they're LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Well, I agree with you, and then I can argue with you on something like this. And you have to look at a guy's style, I think, and he's one of those guys that's always going to be a support player. Even I don't care what age is it. If he was 19 right now, you could see he was going to be a support player. And so, but there are guys that can come in at 22 and 23 that can get better. And I know he was not on your draft list, wasn't he? Very high.
He was on it.
But
let me also say this. He slid to 17.
Right.
So, there's most of the discussion about Dalton Knecht was out, like he was being talked about at 7, 8, and 9 the weeks leading up to the draft, and I was skeptical of that. Maybe turn out that 7, 8, and 9 was the right place to draft him in a draft that is turning out to maybe not be particularly good. Then you just should have taken guys like Zach Edey and Dalton Knecht, who are going to get you 20 minutes a night guaranteed, and that should have been the call. We'll see over time. But because as of right now, that draft is the
why
draft
it's hard
is
building a basketball team.
Right. Jalen Wells is probably been the best rookie so far, one of the best rookies so far, and he's a second-round draft pick out of Washington State. So
to follow up on what you're saying, and to agree with you and disagree with you, there's also a player like Dalton who goes, and you just touched on it, getting passes from LeBron James.
No,
that he's in the right system, on the right team where he can flourish and do what he does best, and that's probably shoot the basketball. I didn't see him one time put the ball on the floor.
He does not.
And do anything like that.
He has taken 3 off the bounce threes all season.
Yeah.
He has taken, coming in tonight, he's taken 54 catch and shoot threes.
Yeah.
That's his game. So anyway, I might have been wrong. Feel free to go hear what I said about Jared McCain. Just to be a little self-serving for a second. Give myself a little credit. Okay, have a great one. That is POSTCAST. Oh, reliability squares.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll give Keonte one for a second half bounce back.
Yeah, we're giving one for that third quarter. That's for sure. Well, the second half, for the most part, he did.
Can I give Drew Eubanks a reliability square?
I got Drew marked there, so I thought maybe we could, be nice to him because he does play part in 19 minutes, 4 for 4. But the 8 rebounds I thought was very good.
And then I was done there, but you have some other marks.
Well, those didn't mean anything. I was just,
Yeah, I'm done at that point.
Right.
That is it. Jazz lose to the Lakers tonight. They rally back in the fourth quarter in a nice fashion to cut into the Lakers' point differential for their cup quest. Have a great night. Talk to you guys tomorrow.